Spoiler warning for House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones, Fire and Blood, and anything else A Song of Ice and Fire related. Hi everyone, I hope you're having a great day. In today's video, I'm going to do a breakdown of a theory which could actually end up happening in the final season of House of the Dragon, which is of course the title of the video. Daemon Targaryen will become a three-eyed crow. So let's get into it. Before I continue, I thought I would clear up a common misconception of what a three-eyed crow is. I believe this confusion spawned due to the Game of Thrones show, when Bran began calling himself the Three-Eyed Raven. In the books, the title is the Three-Eyed Crow. The role is currently occupied by Brynden Rivers, also known as Bloodraven, who is seen as a three-eyed raven in the Weirwood Dreams. Bran Stark asks if Bloodraven is the three-eyed raven in Book 5, when meeting Brynden Rivers in person for the first time, and Brynden was confused. Through the magic of the Weirwood network, Bran Stark looks like a winged wolf, and Brynden Rivers looks like a three-eyed raven, so this is simply their appearance in the Weirwood network. So the Three-Eyed Crow is a role carried out by multiple people in the A Song of Ice and Fire universe, while the Three-Eyed Raven in the books is just an avatar that represents Brynden Rivers in the Weirwood network. In A Dance with Dragons, Book 5 of the Song of Ice and Fire series, Bran enters the ancient Weirwood cave beyond the wall. It's quite a journey as the group descends deeper into the cave. They find skeletons of all different species, but they also find skeletons intertwined with the Weirwood roots in the walls of the cave. So this is most likely previous three-eyed crows that have played their part and expired. What we can take from this passage is that there have been multiple three-eyed crows in the history of this world, and Brynden Rivers was not the first nor the last three-eyed crow. So going forward with this video, I will only be using the book title of this role being the Three-Eyed Crow, and not the show title of this role. With this clarified, I will now get into the main course of this theory. In season 2 of House of the Dragon, Daemon and Aemond have both been told they'll die next to or in the God's Eye. As we know from the book Fire and Blood, Daemon and Aemond will both mount their dragons and fight above the God's Eye, which on the surface seems to lead to the demise of the riders and dragons alike. But what if I were to tell you, I believe Daemon will die many decades after this dance above the God's Eye. Daemon's body was never found, and his last appearance is fighting Aemond above the God's Eye, plunging his sword Dark Sister into his nephew's one good eye. Now to clarify, Caraxes' body was found first, as the red worm clawed its way to shore before keeling over and dying in agony. Vhagar was found many years later, with Aemond still strapped to the dragon's back, and Dark Sister, one of the two Valyrian steel swords of House Targaryen, was found protruding out the back of Aemond's head. Daemon's body was never found, and in Fire and Blood, one source believed that Daemon was simply food devoured by the occupants of the lake. Some say he swam ashore and made his way to Nettles, one of Daemon's lovers in the Fire and Blood book. However, it seems she will not be adapted into the show, as she was a dragon seed like Hugh, Adam and Ulf, so she should have appeared in season 2 of House of the Dragon. She also was the rider of the wild dragon Sheepstealer, which seems it will get claimed by Daemon's daughter Rhaena Targaryen instead, which has led to some fans of the show jokingly suggesting that Daemon should bang his daughter if Nettles is not adapted, of course. Daemon is the great-grandfather of Bloodraven. Bloodraven was born in 175 AC, but we know he was still partially alive, connected to the Weirwood network up to the present day of the Song of Ice and Fire books, which is around 300 AC. Bloodraven, however, did not go missing beyond the wall until 252 AC, most likely to become the Three-Eyed Crow. Daemon was born in 81 AC, so would he be able to live till 252 AC to pass the mantle of the Three-Eyed Crow to his great-grandson? He could have taught Bloodraven when Brendan was a child, just as Bloodraven would send Bran Stark dreams in the books, before Bran connected to the Weirwoods. Daemon may have prepped Bloodraven, and maybe the two actually met much earlier in the timeline on the Isle of Faces, since potentially it could have been a struggle to get Daemon's body to the cave beyond the wall, considering the great fall he had over the God's Eye, most likely breaking many bones. That would be pretty hard to ever heal from. So Daemon most likely was retrieved by the Green Men of the Isle of Faces. We see one of their order in the finale of House of the Dragon Season 2. Daemon Targaryen and Bloodraven both wielded Dark Sisters, so that's another connection the two have. Season 2 spoilers of House of the Dragon coming up, which is the main evidence of this theory being set up. With all the Weirwood hallucinations and dreams Daemon had at Harrenhal this in Season 2, apart from developing Daemon as a character, why would any of it matter if Daemon is just going to die fighting Aemond? Daemon's arc in Season 2 was mainly about him dropping his ambitions of being a king and becoming a servant of the realm, and realizing that he is not the main character of the story. What greater position is there to serve the realm against threats like the Undead Army than the Three-Eyed Crow? I hope this theory is adapted into the show, as they continue to subvert our expectations, with events still being recorded the same way in the history books, with the audience perception changing, just like the Battle of Rook's Rest, where in the history books it seemed Aegon and Aemond teamed up to defeat Rhaenys, but instead in the show, Aemond burned his brother. We know Daemon will die at the God's Eye, but instead of it being during the fight against Aemond, it's potentially over a century later. Daemon dying from old age, connected to a weirwood tree, passing on his knowledge to his great-grandson to defend the realm from the threat beyond the wall. Matt Smith is also no foreigner when it comes to playing a time traveler, as he was the 11th Doctor Who, so maybe he will become the Three-Eyed Crow, watching over events across history and setting the stage for events that would happen centuries later, like Arya stabbing the Night King. Yeah. Maybe he'll make a cameo in the Dunk and Egg show, just as Bloodraven made a cameo in the Hot D Season 2 finale. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments what you think of this theory. Would you like it to happen in the show, or do you think it's not possible? Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see y'all next time.